Hey guys, welcome to today's episode of Talking Decon. To my left here is Fiona, Fridge Time with Fiona, our franchise ramp-up coach. And to my right here is Steve Wolfe, our franchise business consultant. And Steve is going to be presenting today a hell of a doozy, and I'm embarrassed that I had not heard of this before. So please tell everybody about this psycho.
Yeah, so I'm actually going to start us off with a question for both of you guys. Who's the most prolific serial killer that you have ever thought of in the United States, talking numbers-wise?
God, I would think what comes to mind for me is maybe John Wayne Gacy.
John Wayne Gacy, the killer clown. Okay, yeah.
Okay.
33 murders.
Okay, what about
I was
you?
thinking the same thing.
Oh, were you?
Okay.
Yeah.
What about
It's a
like
lesbian
Jeffrey
thing.
Dahmer, Ted Bundy, Dean Corll? He's Candyman. I don't know if you guys knew that.
No.
Dean Corll was kind of the background behind Candyman.
Okay.
Well, all of those that I just mentioned combined don't hit the numbers of the guy that I'm talking about. Sam Little. Once they confirm all of his deaths or all of his murders, he will be the most prolific killer in United States history. So he was convicted of 8 murders, and after his conviction, he confessed to another 93 murders.
What the
And over the 6 months after his confession, they already confirmed 60 of them.
Like, how do you keep tabs on that?
Well, that was one of the things that I asked him. And he was like, this guy remembers with ridiculous detail.
Yes. He sat down with the sketch artist, told them exactly what they look like to the detail. And even crazier, he knew where the bodies were buried. He's like, this one is on I-70. This one is on I-75 in Tampa on the side of the road. If you go about to mile marker 40, that's where the body was. And they found it. And it was in 1970 that he did it. And he had that much detail, and that's how focused he was on it. So his victims were prostitutes that were addicted to drugs. Now, what is crazy about that and why he liked the prostitutes addicted to drugs is his mother was a prostitute. So I guess to
Mommy
me,
issues.
based on what I was finding, it was mommy issues. He's taking out her neglect of him out on these other women. But as I'm reading the story about like how he developed into this serial killer, the most chilling thing that he talks about in one of his interviews is that he was in class as a kid in elementary school, and his teacher, he started fantasizing of killing and choking her because she started rubbing her neck because her neck was in pain. So she was rubbing her neck, and he goes, at that point at a young age, I knew I wanted to choke her out. And I was just like,
It was in that moment he knew he was messed up.
it's crazy.
Oh.
So another question that I propose as I'm reading through this is 93 murders. How do you not get caught?
Yeah.
So the choke and stroke killer, well, the stroking part is he used to be a boxer. So what he would do is he'd punch his victims in the side of the head, make them dizzy. And as they're starting to come to, then he would choke them, and he'd want to watch them go in and out of consciousness as he's choking them.
So did he start out killing animals like most of them? Like
No.
how did he start? What was his first?
So his first crime was breaking in and entering. So he lived in Lorain, Ohio, and he broke into a church and didn't do anything. He just a random
For the thrill of it.
Yeah, thrill of it.
Yeah.
And then a couple of years later, he did another B&E and got caught because he actually tried to steal stuff. He went to prison for 3 years for that. When he got out, that was what kind of ignited his crime spree. He got arrested 25 times over a 5-year period. And for B&E, assault, rape,
Oh, okay.
Attack-
So there's some violent crimes in
Yeah.
there too. It's not just B&E.
no, and then attack on a government official and everything. Like, fine, I couldn't find the name of the government official. I wanted to figure out like who was the
Yeah.
government official he tried to attack. What was the purpose? Like, he didn't like what his viewpoints were that he was trying to push in office. Couldn't figure that out. But after he got arrested in 1961 and served that 3-year period, he became a nomadic drifter. So he started drifting all over the United States. His murders are across 17 states in all over the country. Like California, he has a couple of cases. Ohio, Florida, Arkansas. Like, he went all over. And that was another reason, because there's nothing to tie him to any of these murders, and he doesn't have a physical place of residence. It was hard for them to figure it out. There's many Jane Does that were solved once he started telling these people, here's what the person looks like, here's how I killed them, here's where their body's buried. And like, oh yes, we actually have a case from 1970 that's exactly where we found the body. It's a Jane Doe. Thank you for giving us the name Mary Ann for that person. And they were able to.
So did he bury them? Or
No, some of them he buried. Some of them he dragged them out into a swampy area that's unpopulated on the side of the road.
how do they not find all these bodies?
Well, they sometimes they found the bodies, but they're Jane Does, or because one of them he was talking about here in Florida. He took them into a swampy marsh, and by the time they found the body, it was already decomposed. The nature and animals had already got to it, and it became a Jane Doe because they couldn't identify the body.
Okay.
But the time they found the body, based on the decomposition of it, where it was placed, and him giving the name and the total recount of what he did on the body, they were able to say, yes, it was his case. This is the person. And so this all happened over a span of 35 years, 1970 to 2005.
Did they look alike?
Like
the
was
victims?
there like a pattern?
No, they're
just prostitutes.
They were just prostitutes. I mean, they were short,
all
tall,
female? No male.
No males.
Okay, so that's consistent with some of the others where
Yeah.
they target the prostitutes because probably he was thinking nobody's
gonna
looking
miss him.
for him. No one's going to miss him.
And some of these ones, he talked about a story where he picked up this prostitute, took her back to her house with the roommates, and as they're in the house, one of the roommates, because he has a car, said, "Hey, I need you to go to the store. Can you go pick it up?" Well, they leave, and they get in him and the prostitute get in an argument, and he ends up killing her. So I was talking about this with you the other day, and pretty much the roommates killed her because if she would have just stayed there, she would have probably survived.
Right.
But as I read more into it, there was multiple times where he would find a prostitute, he'd get into a situation where he didn't feel comfortable killing, leave, and then come back and find that same prostitute again, and then end up murdering them.
So did he pick them randomly then, or was there something in particular about a particular girl?
No, so he felt that he had some sort of attraction to them, whether it was talking with them, whether it was a physical, and he goes into that
Because of his mother.
Yes.
Okay.
And he called all of them hoes, and he goes very in detail of why he calls them hoes, and that he feels that hoes are women that only can make money off of their body because they're not intellectually smart enough to get money any other way, so that's what they use as their advantage. And then he goes, then they go into drugs, and then they become a different person, and typically when I find that they've gone into a different person, that is the perfect opportunity for me.
It's like a deep-rooted issue with his mom. Like, he's linking everything.
It sounds like. Do we know what happened to mom? Like, did she die at a young age? Like, what happened?
So they don't say anything about that. When he graduates from high school, he leaves his mom. Apparently she's still alive, but he has to get away from it. And she...
You know what I'm thinking?
Huh.
That she probably put it in his face. Turned tricks with him. So instead of maybe giving him up for adoption, it was blatant.
Yeah. And he saw her change into a different person.
I mean, and he calls in the interviews, he calls his mom a hoe and says, and I think that's where it was the prostitution versus the drug portion, and that it had to be the combination, because he goes into stories about how his mom changed physically, that she would go out, she'd get her tricks, bring them back, and then afterwards she would go down this rabbit hole of doing drugs to kind of erase the memory of it. And so the combination is, okay, you probably have a child out there that you're doing or treating the same way that I was treated.
So, but this wasn't all in Ohio, right?
No. So the 17 states that I mentioned.
17.
That's probably how.
So he
went
was
so
very
long.
nomadic then. That's how he went away so long. Yeah, without getting caught, because nobody's looking for prostitutes.
No.
Yeah. So Arizona, Arkansas, California, Florida, Georgia, Illinois, Kentucky, Louisiana, Maryland, Mississippi, Nevada, New Mexico, Ohio, South Carolina, Tennessee, and Texas.
What was his work that took him to all the? Was he day labor?
No, he was stealing the money from the prostitutes and stuff.
It's a lot of travel miles.
Yeah.
Oh, so he was robbing them after he murdered them.
Yep.
And he was living off of that.
Yep.
But because he was incarcerated at one point, his fingerprints are in the system. So what was the straw that broke the camel's back here?
Well, before we even get to that point, what really got me was he was arrested in Ohio again. He went back to Ohio, got arrested for murder, okay? And they failed to indict him, okay? They said they didn't have enough evidence to completely indict him. While that case is going on, they get a call from Florida that they want their opportunity at him as well. He fails to get indicted, so he gets released to custody to get extradited to Florida. Gets to Florida. This person that was a witness to the murder victim being picked up by Sam Little was also another prostitute. Well, they end up not prosecuting because they didn't believe the witness because she was also a prostitute.
Oh my God!
So they end up
see the pattern here.
Yeah.
So they end up letting him go. And talk about those opportunities to catch this guy. Sam Little, in one of his FBI interviews, talks about that in one of his murders, the girl wasn't still in the car, and he gets pulled over.
Holy
and the girl's in the
smokes.
back seat of the car. And as the cop's walking up to the window, he goes and starts fiddling with the zipper, and he goes, "Oh, sorry, officer," blah, blah, blah. And the officer goes, "What were you doing?" "Me and my wife were just making love. We're moving along, though. We're moving along." And the cop looks back to the wife, who he sits there, and he leans his head back, and he goes, "She was just kind of like dazed out." That's what the cop recalls after everything. And he goes, "But I was like, oh yeah, just gave her good loving, blah, blah, blah." And he goes, "All right, move along." And he goes, "I was able to distract them long enough that he let us go when I had a dead body in the back of my car."
Like, how do they not realize?
Oh, so she was dead at the time.
Yes, he had just finished killing her.
Like, I feel like, how do you not know that's a dead body?
Why wouldn't you say, "Ma'am, are you okay?"
Yeah.
No response. "Hey, I need to probably take a look at her."
Yeah.
Like, that's just shitty policing.
Yeah.
So it definitely was bad policing. And go into the interview for these confessions, and that was one of the confessions. And then cut to other interviews of the police officers, because he did it. He confessed to the FBI and the Texas Rangers of these 93 cases, and they're talking to him that they even tried to set him up to make sure he wasn't just trying to glorify his murders and say that he did a lot more. So they put in a couple of prostitutes that were murdered that they already knew who it was, and he goes, "Yes, I know who that is, but I didn't kill her." He goes, "I wanted to, but I'd never had the opportunity." And he knew her name. He even knew her name, but he goes, "I didn't kill her." And they knew. And that's how they were like, this guy really is speaking the truth, because we put in two or three plants, and he knew each one of them's name,
But how?
knew he didn't do it, and then moved along.
How do you remember with that detail, like mile marker, whatever, on this interstate of a 20-year-old murder that you did? I can't even remember what I had for breakfast.
Yeah, it was.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
But he had to, like, constantly think about it. Like, keep it fresh.
And obsess over it. But how do you keep them all straight?
And he just said that he had so much love for the physical killing that it just burned into his memory that he did it, and that's how he was able to remember all these details, and he kept them cataloged in his brain. That's what he said, kept them cataloged in my brain so that I knew and I could revisit it. He goes, "There's smells, there's taste, there's everything that I can remember." He goes, "I'll drink a soda and I'll remember that I was having a soda with this prostitute at this time, and it brings back that memory. And if you don't find something that you can latch on to it, you will forget it. But I don't forget everything. I make sure I have it cataloged."
Linked it to something.
And I was like, holy cow.
So he never married, never had kids.
Nothing.
That is insane amount.
And all of his victims he also had sex with.
I was going to ask you, did he have sex
before or
after that he killed him?
So both. He didn't go have sex with them before and then after, but one or the other. But he made sure that he had sex with all his victims.
I will never understand when people have sex with cops.
Well, me either. But again, his DNA's in the system, so all you would need to do is find one prostitute.
Yeah.
And you could have gotten him. So he got away with this for 30 years.
35. Yep.
That's shitty policing again.
Yeah. So he actually was caught in a homeless shelter because of a drug case. And when they were processing his fingerprints and everything, they started linking him to other murders. 8 of them.
Good God.
They linked him to 8 murders, and they were able to indict him on all 8 murders. But he got away with it for 35 years, and he jokingly said to the FBI and the Texas Rangers, the common police are idiots, and you can just play to their emotion and them being human and get away with anything.
I mean, he proved it.
Yeah.
Oh, big
Yeah,
time. So he was probably, how old by then? No, it sounds like an old man by then.
So in 2014, he was 75.
So
Wow.
he had a full life of killing people.
Mm-hmm.
And so he probably was like, fuck it, I'll just confess to the 93 others that you morons don't even know about.
Well, so he actually, while in prison, he actually got diagnosed that he had a terminal disease and that he was going to die. And that's when the confession, he was like, I'll just confess to all my murders and everything. And he thought it would help speed up the process for him to be executed.
Oh, okay.
And it didn't. He ended up dying of natural causes in a California state prison. But he thought that if I can confess and I can get moved to a state where that they still do executions, I don't have to die of natural causes. But California wanted their time with him, and he ended up dying in California State Prison.
So the interesting thing that I think about this story is that this was back in 2005 that he had originally confessed to the 93, right?
No, in 14 was
2014.
When,
So
5
6
was
years
when
ago.
2005 was when he was convicted.
Okay.
2014 was when he got diagnosed and he started confessing.
Okay, so we've got 6 years essentially,
Mm-hmm.
that 6-7 years that he has confessed, and they still haven't found all the bodies despite him telling them exactly where they are.
Correct.
So they're in process still as we speak of trying to locate, because they've only located 60 some out of the
60 out of 93 he confessed.
So this
That's
is
crazy.
ongoing.
Yeah.
Yes.
And he's given like specific
Yeah.
locations, right, for all of them?
Yeah, but you have to wonder, this many years later, has the environment just decomposed them to the, or animals or, whatever, to the point where we can't recognize it's a human.
Yep. And the FBI website says that they have constantly updated matches. And the largest sum of them that were found were within the first 6 months of him confessing.
Well,
And they were able to find them and everything. And,
Pull cold cases, right?
And they say that there's even people that heard about the case that live in areas that have, I'm going to go walking trying to look for this type of thing. And they've actually, people called in and said, we watched the interview. This is where it is. And they found the body, even though FBI had already been there and couldn't find the body,
So there was 2 things that I thought were extraordinary about this case. Number 1, why have we not heard of him?
Yeah, not at all.
Not at all. Never heard his name in my life.
Yeah.
And I was kind of in that industry, so to speak. So you would think, like we hear about Jeffrey Dahmer, or, everybody knows about the Ted Bundy. And the second thing is, against normal kind of thought process, he's a black male. He's not even a white male, which most serial killers are white males. And they have that history of either animal mutilations or...
How's his forehead?
I don't know. How's his forehead?
His forehead is of normal size.
Normal size, not a 5-finger forehead.
No. And when
See?
watching looking at the pictures of him younger, he was a very good looking man too. So
Wow.
I didn't understand, maybe he was getting with prostitutes because he couldn't naturally get a woman to like him or whatever.
That's his mom.
But yeah, he had very clean cut haircut with the swoop over, which I guess was popular in the 70s and everything. Yep.
That's an extraordinary story that no one has ever heard of.
But like the anger, right, that he had against his mom,
Yeah.
like it's
That
like what he
sparked it.
couldn't do to his mom, like he needed to get it out of his system.
Well, that's what's interesting, is because you didn't really have any history on the mom.
Mm-mm.
I'm assuming...
And honestly, there was nothing really tying his mom into any of this until he confessed and said who his mom was and why. He gave the course of why he was the way he was in his confessions to the FBI and the Texas Rangers. Even in his earlier cases, nobody knew of his history with his mother. Like that wasn't even a defense or anything
Yeah.
like that, which is crazy.
Yeah, in my experience with street prostitutes is that they're all pretty much in the system.
Mm-hmm.
They've been caught one way or another, and I used to work undercover narcotics and vice, and I did a lot of street prostitution, and I also did kind of Craigslist, what we call Craigslist prostitution. And the whole thing was back in the 70s and 80s, they were hammering the prostitutes. Well, that turned around and policing started to focus on the Johns, right? So it's a supply and demand issue.
Yeah.
So what we did is we kind of rotated and we removed the prostitutes for a particular side of the city and we took their place.
Okay.
So when the Johns would come, they didn't know any different. They just thought we were normal. So we moved them out and we're like, hey, you're not working on this corner. So we would do this, quite frequently. And, I was 23 years old, and this was the most eye-opening part of my career that I will never forget is you think as a normal, middle-class person from suburbia that the guys that go for prostitutes are guys like this or, just dirtbag type things. And I cannot tell you that was a minority of the guys that would try to pick us up. It was married guys in BMWs, their kid seats in the back seat. I even got an FBI agent on duty on his lunch break. Career over.
Oh, wow.
Holy
Career
cow.
over. Okay. So even he didn't know that we were there. So these are executives. These are very high-powered people and married people. I mean, you name it. It runs the gamut. But the thing that I was surprised of is that it's not that type of guy always.
Yeah.
Now, I would get picked up by that type of guy. And you get this, like the hair on the back of your neck would stand up and you get really uneasy about it. And I always attribute it to that guy is probably having some type of similarities to a guy like that, that's just trying to harm you. But, I've been grabbed before, a gun put to my head. I mean, I've had pretty much all of it happen. But every single time they get caught, they always say the same thing. This is my first time. I'll never do it again. And it's not.
Yeah.
And it's not. It's not their first time
It's
at
your
all.
first time getting caught.
And I can tell you one of the extraordinary things is it's exhausting. So we would do like 4-hour shifts and there would be a couple of us. And I literally got, I had a partner. I got one guy. He got busted, of course. They just get a ticket and they're released. They don't even go to jail. This guy went back around and picked up my partner.
Oh,
man.
wow.
Twice in one night. Okay. So stupid is one thing, but holy smokes, dude, you just got arrested.
So what happens the second time around?
Another ticket.
Just another ticket?
Another ticket. So here's the effed up part about it is that it's a misdemeanor. It's just a misdemeanor. So it's like, stealing a bouquet of flowers.
It's a slap on the wrist.
It's a slap on the wrist. But what they used to do is they used to put these guys on John TV. Did you guys ever have that in the cities that you grew up in? So in some cities, it's like a PBS type thing or a public service channel, and they would run John TV and show your picture. Well, the problem with it was that the high and mighty, powerful people were like, no, that needs to shut down. Don't do that. Well, why do you think they said that?
Because they were
Because
going to
they
be on
They were
TV.
doing it too.
Yeah.
They were doing it too. So originally, we thought this will stop the demand if we humiliate these people and put them on TV.
Yeah.
So have you ever noticed why guys that pick up prostitutes are never blasted on TV? It's because the high and mighty, the high and powerful are preventing it from happening. So I can guarantee you shit would change real quick if that wasn't the case.
Absolutely.
And then, you've got Backpage and Craigslist. That was a whole different clientele that we got for prostitution. We actually had a hotel room. They would come to our hotel room and literally were like, hey, I've only got 30 minutes. My wife's waiting. Like, it was that, like, just blatant, apparent. I even got offered I don't have any money for a BJ. Can I give you a Whopper? Like, literally. Like a Whopper
Like
sandwich.
a sandwich?
A Whopper sandwich. So
You get what you pay for.
yeah, but here's one of the biggest misconceptions. And I don't know why guys think this. If I ask you if you're a cop, you have to tell me. No, you don't. That's not true. That's not true. So they would say that all the time. Hey, are you a cop? You have to tell me if you are. I'm like, no. And I'm thinking, you're an idiot. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's not how it works at all. It's you are requesting some type of sexual act for anything of monetary value. It could be a pencil, it could be a cup, a Whopper, you name it. But I mean, it runs the gamut, and you would be shocked on how frequent it happens. We would do it at lunchtime, just normal lunchtime.
I feel like that would be like at a peak.
No.
And
then Friday nights, Saturday nights, that's normal, right? You would think, okay, everybody's kind of out at that time. No. Lunchtime, after work, in the morning, on the way to work, you name it, it happens. And it's, these stings are happening all over the country. But the problem is they're not having the impact that they're designed to have because we're not able to humiliate these Johns. So some of the things that we used to do is, another misconception is you have to dress up and put all this makeup on and high heels and all that. That's not street prostitution. That's more escort type service.
Did you wear khaki shorts and a shirt?
No, not the typical uniform, if that's what you're asking. No. What we did is we blended in with the other street prostitutes, which means we had to look homeless.
Yeah.
So clothes that don't fit one way or the other.
Gotcha.
Looks like they were just put together. But one of the cool things that we did is that, I know I'm giving away all my secrets here, but it looks like a bottle of nail polish, and what it was is called blackout. We would paint it on our teeth, and it made it look like you had no teeth.
Oh, that's crazy.
It's really cool. So you paint it on just a couple teeth, so it looks literally like you have nothing. Because, I've had braces in my life. My teeth are perfect. That's kind of a freaking red flag, right?
Yeah.
If no other street prostitute has
You're
perfect
homeless,
teeth.
but you have great dental.
Yeah, yeah. So one of the other things is like, I would shower before I go to work. Well, so what I started doing is the same clothes that I wore them every day for 2 years, never washed them, and left them in my garage. So when I was working street prostitution, I would put on those clothes so I smelled like the street. So not clean or whatever. And, try not to wash my hair for that particular day. But it did not take a lot to try to blend in with street people. You just had to look disheveled, no perfect teeth. I was extremely fit. So I had to wear clothes that were very big so they couldn't tell that I was fit. I tried not to wear shorts or anything like that to see my legs, but you're out there with no weapon, no nothing. So you had to really watch your ass at all times.
So you didn't have backup like around the corner?
Yeah, around the corner. It was around the corner, but a lot can happen. In a split second.
Yeah.
So a lot does happen in a split second. But, I'll never forget that day that we got the FBI agent, and he was like in his 60s, close to retirement. And it was noon on a sunny day, and he was in his FBI car, like his issued car.
Yeah.
That automatically increases it to a felony, right? Because
No.
it's a government official?
No, but it wasn't like a marked car.
Okay.
It was just a take-home car. So the look on his face, I'll never forget it when I said, yeah, pull around the corner, I'll meet you there. And he knew he was had. He knew he was had. So, another thing, they wouldn't let us call the families. Like, it was like, you guys are just giving them a ticket and then allowing them to just go back and do it all over again, but get smarter this time and not get caught.
Yeah.
There was nothing that could like your employer will never find out. Your wife's not going to find out.
There's not like a true consequence.
Nothing. There's not a true consequence. So you pay a $500 ticket? Whoopee shit.
So you can get education on how to be better
Right.
at it.
Right. And it's a misdemeanor. So, I guess if you are applying for a job, and it's even, it's solicitation of a prostitute. So it was an incredible experience, but it was very eye-opening. And, after doing it, I am a firm believer in legalizing it. And the reason I say that is because I think it's going to decrease the amount of issues, criminal issues, safety issues, and disease issues, like health-based issues. Mm-hmm. So I think if, Europe does a lot of that. If you regulate it, I think that only good things could come out of it. You're never going to stop it, mm-hmm. right? That's like saying you're going to stop cocaine.
Oldest industry
it's the oldest industry in the world. And as long as there is a demand, you're going to have the supply. Mm-hmm. So I think from a society standpoint, we're tackling it from the wrong way. Let's regulate it and let's make sure these women are taken care of, because we're not going to stop it. But, the problem is with the Johns.
I wonder what the decrease of communicable diseases would be if you can actually regulate it.
A ton, I hope. Because I'll tell you, not once, all those years that I did undercover, did one guy say, "Do you have any condoms?" Not once.
Man.
So they're bringing that back home to their families.
It's so disgusting.
It is. It's nasty. It's nasty.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So anyway, get off on a tangent there. That was an exceptional case. And, I'm glad you brought that to light, because I never heard of the guy. Mm-mm. So I'm glad that you kind of put some highlight on that, and everybody that wants to look that up, feel free to do that. But thanks for joining today. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and ring that bell. Follow us on TikTok and Instagram @Crime Scene Cleaning. Have a great day.